Documentaries like Glow, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, films like The Wrestler, and series like Vice's Dark Side of the Ring have all been shedding light on some of the more brutal and oftentimes sad realities that lie just behind the curtain in professional wrestling. But there is one film in this little subgenre that you may not have heard of. It's the story of a group of young women who are so desperate to become professional wrestlers that they'll endure psychological abuse and physical assault. It's the story of the cost of one's dreams and whether going through hell to get to heaven is even worth it. It's Gaea Girls.
薄泣きしてるだろお前こらこら
プロレスラーはすごいリングの上で生き生き光って見えるんですけど、自分もそういう風になりたいっていう風に。
お前がちんたらしてるからよくねえんだよ、はい、今まで、はい、今日ちょっと途中で諦めが入りました。
嫌なやつがいないと思っておりますので、その辺もご心配なく。
In Gaea Girls, which was originally produced for the BBC, British filmmaker Kim Longinotto follows a group of young girls who are trainees in the female professional wrestling or Joshi promotion Gaea Girls. The two main subjects of the film are complete opposites. See, first you have Chigsa Nagayo. Now, she is a Joshi pro wrestling veteran and at the time of filming has been on top of her game for years now. She is bold, she is assertive, and she is very intimidating. Then you have Saika Takeuchi. She's a young trainee hoping to become a professional wrestler in the Gaea Girls promotion, which Chigsa Nagayo operates. She is quiet, she is reserved, she is shy, she's diminutive. She's the kind of person who walks into a room and nobody notices. And she desperately wants to be none of those things. You get the sense that for Saika Takeuchi, her dream of becoming a pro wrestler has less to do with wrestling and more to do with becoming an entirely different person.
自分はあんまり普段では目立たないんですけれども、リングの上では自分自身をすごくアピールできる場だと思うので、アピールしていきたいですね。
And the movie follows Saika in her time at the Gaea Girls training school right up until this big final test that after a year of torturous training will determine whether she becomes a professional wrestler or not. And it's a one-shot deal. I mean, there is no in-between. After an entire year of torture, it's either pass or fail. Now, if this is beginning to sound like a wonderful feel-good narrative about a young woman who discovers herself through hard work and makes her dreams come true, well, think again. Saika and her fellow trainees are verbally abused by their superiors.
怖い。お前怖いんじゃないっつんだこな。お前がちんたらしてるからよくねえんだよ。今まで。
They're run down physically to the point of complete mental exhaustion, and in some cases, they're just straight up physically assaulted.
それで終わり？
いえ
お客さん何も分かんないじゃん。
はい。
あんたプロじゃないよ、全然。
And in case that last clip was lost on anyone, drop kicks in professional wrestling are not supposed to split your face open. That was a deliberate move meant to hurt Saika. This is basically the first big shock moment of the film, and it leaves you asking why. And look, it's entirely possible that because this whole thing is being filmed, her instructors decide to be extra violent with Saika to, as they say, protect the business. You see, there are lots of old traditions in professional wrestling about keeping kayfabe or keeping the simulated nature of everything a secret. So baby faces and heels, good guys and bad guys, don't ride on the same bus. You don't break character in public, and maybe when the cameras are rolling, you drop kick your student and bust their face open. But again and again, we have to watch this young girl, Saika, being brutalized by her trainers. Sometimes it's Chigusa Nagayo herself, sometimes it's Meiko Satomura, who incidentally would go on to become one of the most successful wrestlers of her generation. But regardless, each time it happens, it's really hard to watch. Things get so bad that one of the other trainees disappears in the middle of the night. Like, she doesn't call her parents, she doesn't say she quits, she just dips, and we never hear from her again.
もう次お前がっかりさせたらお前ただじゃおかねえから。
よろしくお願いします。よろしくお願いします。
The contrast that the film shows between Saika's world and Chigusa's world is so stark. For Chigusa, she's been on top for a long time. She's paid her dues, and her life is all bright lights, radio interviews, and main event matches. For Saika, it's a menial existence in this box in the middle of semi-rural Japan, where day in and day out, she's psychologically and physically tortured by her idols. And she's far from the only one, by the way. It seems like every single woman in this training facility is psychologically in pieces. Remember earlier when I said that one girl just dipped in the middle of the night? Well, she gets replaced by a new trainee named Sato, who looks about 11 years old, although I'm sure she's older, and she doesn't last more than what seems like a week.
若林がこうスパーリングの見極めを見て逃げた気持ちもよく分かりましたし、
ね、見てるのも辛かった。
はい。
竹内のスパーリング、苦しそうにしてんのを見て。
But despite all of this stuff, Saika's dream actually comes true. She passes her final test and is allowed to debut for Gaea Girls, which she does at the legendary pro wrestling venue of Korakuen Hall in Tokyo. But this ending is not as happy as it might sound. After her match, exposed physically and mentally and surrounded by a ton of reporters and cameramen in a shot that is so intimidating it must have been staged, she cringes from all the attention.
デビューできたのは嬉しいです。はい。
Just as timid, just as afraid, and just as scared as ever, we come to understand that Saika's debut as a professional wrestler did not magically transform her into an entirely new person. And that's it. According to the very little information that is out there about her, Saika's time in professional wrestling lasted about 2 years before she quit entirely and retired. So what happened? Did Saika find what she was looking for through pro wrestling and therefore have no more use of it? Was she so psychologically destroyed from her time on Gaea Girls that she couldn't continue on and simply disappeared? No one seems to know. It's a haunting ending to a film that exposes the very real psychological and physical brutality behind a so-called fake sport.
今日ちょっと途中で諦めが入りました。しっかりしろ。ちょっと諦めが入って3つ取られました。まあ相手が相手だっただけに。ただ自分の気持ちをちゃんと今から言わせますので、それを気持ちを聞いてその後にもう審査に入ってもらってもいいと思います。
This is a movie that is equal parts hard to watch and impossible to turn away from, and you will find yourself watching it several times over. And to do that, I highly recommend you do go out and purchase the surprisingly available DVD that comes with another one of filmmaker Kim Longinato's films called Shinjuku Boys. Itself a very good documentary. Guys, if you like this one, you got to check out my video on the pro wrestling and bodybuilding influences of the anime and manga grappler Baki. And also, if you're down for more raw, dark wrestling documentary content, I'm going to leave some suggestions in the comments section.